Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is a very, very old Ludwig Black Beauty snare drum. I would date this to being 1928 or a little newer, could be 1930s, and the reason why is they have the improved, what they called the improved strainer, which had a little larger cam throw and a little bit more positive action than the old 1920-ish up to 28. Well, they still made that one with the little arm. They made that for quite a long time. But this one is unique in the fact that it was developed. I first see it in their 1928 catalog, and then it goes from there. So I've been given free and artistic license to do with this drum the type of restoration that I see fit. And there's different schools of thought. There's a school of thought, just clean it up, put it together, and make it playable, which some people would call a restoration. I would call that putting it into good playing condition. I wouldn't really call that a restoration. There's different levels of restoration. I think he's given me a budget to work with, and I think we're going to make this look as close to the original as possible. We are not going to black nickel plate it, although it could be done, and the engraving could be re-engraved. We're not going to go that far with this. We're going to make this shell nice, and we're going to work on these brass pieces. The hoops were brass, and they were coated. They had their process of copper and then gold tinted lacquer, but they are brass hoops, as can be seen by this. I started working on this just a little bit just to see what we're dealing with here, and you can see the brass hoop and then copper flash plating, and then what would have been a gold lacquer, like a nitrocellulose lacquer. And I've got pictures of a similar drum without engraving that I did that's older than this, that's in my own personal collection. And see what you think of that. I know different people have different feelings. My thought is, if you make this metal look nice and even lacquer it, you're not significantly changing the instrument. You're just changing the appearance of this. We're not drilling, we're not killing. And if you didn't like it and you go, well, that was a mistake, well then take it and throw it in a bucket of acetone for 10 minutes and bury it in the ground for 3 months. Put it back on the drum so it'll look like this. To me, you're not significantly changing or destroying the value of the drum. The drum was made to be pretty and ornamental, and it's primarily going to be used as an ornamental museum type piece in his own collection of things. As I understand it, it was purchased at a thrift sale or a flea market. It had a sticker on the inside that said $8. Oh, the shock. And it was laying in an old garage that was built kind of like for a Model T. Very narrow garage full of junk, and it was just sitting on the floor languishing. And it probably would have been purchased after 1998 is the best we can find from a someplace probably in or around or near Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, which if you look on the map, you will not be able to pronounce that correctly. Well, hey you all, I just thought I'd post a little bit more video information on the old 1929 Ludwig Black Beauty Deluxe, Standard Deluxe model that I have in for restoration. And I really struggled with a number of things. Number one was getting the original gold look. Now I know what Ludwig did. They copper plated over their brass, and then they used the gold tinted lacquer to get what they called Ludwig Art Gold. And I have an example of that, fairly intact here from a 1920s pedal that I own. And I struggled. I used a lot of different recipes of tint and lacquer and buffed copper pipe, and I would spray samples on there. And I got to the point where I was driving myself nuts. I think I did several hours of experimentation, and for heaven's sake, how long are we going to take in experimentation to try and get this a perfect match? And I determined that I don't know what Ludwig used for a dye. I know that they probably used nitrocellulose lacquer, which was ubiquitous for band instruments in the day. So that's what the shell is sprayed with, a clear coat. And then the pieces and parts, I just decided to go with a gold tinted lacquer. That was a combination of yellow, orange, and brown. And this part is brass, this part is steel, and it lacquered up pretty well. And in reality, it's going to look great. It's going to look cool. And everything's going to tie together quite well. Now, is this exactly what Ludwig did back in the day? Well, they did a couple of things. They offered gold plating, they offered art gold, and then they changed their recipe for art gold later, and it became a little bit different color. So I just decided, he gave me complete free rein on this project to do it kind of how I wanted and what I thought would look nice. He's not a drum collector per se. Anyway, I think the drum will tie together really nicely with all the pieces and parts. The tension rods were also copper plated, but they were rusting through because it's steel below the copper. So I just wire wheeled all that off and then hit it with some green compound, degreased it, and then used the gold lacquer on that. It's a little bit different tone than the rest of the gold, but that's okay because it's really kind of a mechanical part. I don't think significantly. Again, it's going to be substantially similar. That sounds like lawyer talk. It's going to be substantially similar to what this drum originally would have been. So I'm going to continue to assemble this and get it going. And I'll show you some more progress as we go. So the snare strainer is the kind of the new improved version over the older style that they had. This particular one was missing the extension, so I built this out of brass stock, and then I just drilled one hole in it rather than making it an elongated hole like they have on the originally would have been done. That would have allowed for placement on the strainer in and out. And I just don't think it's necessary. It's just, and this is an 832 lyre screw for a trumpet or saxophone or whatever. And then this, I just threaded that with the 832. It had some threading in it already, but I just cleaned it up, sharpened it up. And then this 832 standard nut, but I lacquered it with the gold lacquer. Sorry about that. And that'll go on the back to keep it secure. So let's check that out. So this part, this simply goes over like that. I like this side better. This threads in. It's held secure. Like that. And that would probably be secure enough, but I'm putting a nut on the back of that just to make sure. Make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. And then this will be installed once I get my brass screws. They're being lacquered right now. They're drying, so that will go on. And surprisingly, this whole thing was complete, you know, for being kicked around in a garage for, you know, decades, I don't know, a long time. That's good to go. This is the butt side. This will go on here. I have to go and get a brass screw because one of them snapped during the disassembly. It was pretty corroded, so they're just a very small, like a 632 or 636. Gee, they might even be 4mm actually. I think it's 4mm screw, or not 4mm, but number 4. Where did they get that numbering system? Please leave your comments. I think it's just a random thing. Anyway, that's going on there. Now this was steel, and that's got that more darkish look to it. But ultimately, I had to just go with something that would work more universally. Here's the old pedal. You know, I know it's hard to see there in this light and on video, but again, legal speak, substantially similar. It is a little different though in color to the brass. So, in the end, what we're going to have is a very beautiful drum, a very pretty example that's significantly similar to what it would have looked like originally, and that's really the goal. This is going to be just a museum piece at home. It's not going to be. There's no attempt of selling this as original, and anybody that knows these drums would be able to tell that, of course, the parts have been buffed and lacquered. But we left the shell original. That had a clear coat on it too, folks, because when you have a nickel-plated or silver-plated instrument and they engrave to get the brass to shine through or to show through, they have to coat it with something, otherwise all this would turn black within a matter of a couple of years. So they did clear coat these drums, these black nickel drums, and so I did the same. I first removed the old coating just with acetone, and then I didn't really have to buff on this, which you wouldn't want to do because that black nickel is pretty thin, and you can buff right through that, so you don't want to do that. Anyway, I clear coated it then with the same lacquer as I'm using here, except it was not tinted. So a good nitrocellulose is good. I guess you could use acrylic lacquer, which is probably more common from your hardware stores and stuff like that. But I spray band instruments and trumpets and trombones, so I'm getting Egyptian brand lacquer out of Tennessee. And then Nicholas lacquer is also available. Online, you can get Nicholas gold color lacquer. It's not going to be the exact same color as this, but you build up enough layers and you'll get a nice gold tone. But Nicholas out of Chicago, GJ Nicholas Company, they also sell nitro for brass, you know. So. Well, here we are with the completed 1930 Ludwig DeLuxe with the imitation art gold finish, and just got the new gut snares installed. And we thought we would do a little play test. First, take the snares off. Skin head on here. do when they wanted to get rid of that ring back in the day? I don't know, because I wasn't alive, but eventually they developed tone controls. But a piece of leather would probably have been a very common thing. Wires in the day would have been linen, gut, or silk wound with wire snares. All those were options. And let's see what happens if we loosen the snares. Dodds, Gene Krupa thing. Tighten them back up for orchestral work. Muffler. There we are. Complete, finished, a little rumbly and a little bit ringy, but that's how they were. That's what they sounded like. Much different. This feels very much like a modern orchestral snare drum with the different synthetic snares that they have, cables and such like that. Very dry, rather dry sounding. This seems way better in my opinion than like some of the drums that are offered. But yeah, a very nice full restoration. I did not put synthetic or calf skin heads on because I thought that was going to be a little bit overkill for a display, and this looks pretty significant or pretty similar to a calf skin head. Thanks.